Hi, everybody. Welcome to your coaching call. I'm Lee Honish. I'm joined by David Bartels of Home Loan Advocates. That was a cat missing dramatically, unplugging cables. Hopefully that didn't unplug anything. Hi, everybody. Welcome to your coaching call. Lee Honish, David Bartels, here to talk about distressed property marketing. David is the owner-operator of Home Loan Advocates and a brilliant man when it comes to the wonderful world of default. How are you today, David?
I'm doing very well. Brilliant might be overstating it a bit, but I appreciate that. I'm doing fine.
Pretty brilliant, David. We talk about distressed properties and marketing for them. Everybody here, short sale, you should be monster marketing people if you are here directly, or advocate marketing or some variation thereof if you're here from some other secret reason, or you managed to get onto this webinar and you're here live. Good for you, I guess. I don't know. If you're listening to a replay of this, let's do all the guesswork out of it. Wait, I can look at the screen and know exactly how far this is. We're 15 days away from the Monster Marketing Summit. It is a distressed property event happening on March the 15th in Pasadena, California. The event is completely free. Go to prereo.org. There you go. Presented by Monster Marketing and Home Loan Advocates, your friends in distressed properties. Hi, David. That was a lot.
Hello.
Now I'm good. I unplugged. I have cats jumping in my lap. I'm over rescuing cats at this point. I got cats jumping around, and it's a thing. It's a thing. I do have news. It is not posted yet. There will be a commercial for it and an email to all of you. I would like you all in the future to visit makedianawalk.com. You're going to like this, David. So Diana has started taking, I'm putting the story down on audio right now so nobody asks later on. So Diana's mother and grandmother and grandfather were recently moved into a nearby facility right down the street. Grandmother suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia, that type of thing.
Oh.
She's literally down there every day getting the grandfather adjusted to assisted care and the whole bit, right?
I have no doubt.
Wait, this is the best part, David. She comes home one day and said, I'm going to write a check for $1,000. Is that okay? I thought it was cute that she asked because I don't normally get asked. I said, sure, what's it for? And she said, for an MS walk that I want to do. I said, well, aren't you supposed to raise the money? She goes, yeah, you're going to donate it. I said, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. I said, but okay, I'm still in. All right, how far are you walking? Well, I don't intend to walk it. I'm just going to raise the money. I said, that's definitely not how this works. I said, number one, don't have a problem with donating the money. Don't have any issue with that. Number two, I'm not donating something that you're not walking in. I said, how far is it? And it's 2.5 miles. I said, you can walk 2.5 miles. So that generated makedianawalk.com. I'm going to force her to walk 2.5 miles. I'm going to ask you all to support just $1, just because it's completely amusing to me, just so that I can hit the goal. I'm going to wind up paying people. I mean, it's no big deal, but I will probably make a secret donation just to make sure. Her goal is $1,000. I'm pretty sure she can do it. I feel hopeful that we can get the donations. But she's doing it in honor of her grandmother, and I think it's wonderful. And if she is going to do it, she's going to walk it. I knew you'd like that story, David.
I do like it, actually.
So we're here to take your questions, answer your things. I will tell you what David and I have been, the cost of entrance to Pasadena. See, that's a smart move, Donald. Since it's already free, and if I charge for Pasadena, it's a whole different story, but it's funny. But I'll bring a sign-up form to Pasadena so you guys can sign up. David and I have been discussing over the last 24 hours a Market Watch article. So Market Watch seems to be hot and heavy on this topic while everybody loads up their questions, David. We already have.
All right, so first of all, my wife forwarded that article to me at 4:33 this morning.
I beat her.
I should read it.
I beat your wife. this time.
Yes.
I want her feedback and I want yours. And I guess we should cover it for all of you who don't cover. I like the fact that she's into Market Watch because I'm huge on Market. There's a new one that's also out on the same wavelength. So let's cover them both. So this was published literally 2 days ago, and it was written by Keith Giroux. I'm going to give you the synopsis to this point in the article because he gets kind of windy about the whole thing. He basically looks at non-agency loans and where did everybody go who went in foreclosure. That's the gist of the article. And his summation to this is following the trends, right, per time on loan delinquency. In fact, it shows loan delinquency rates on a chart and these all came from Fitch Ratings using loan submissions and black box. The big deal that he finally comes up with is this 2016 report where they're showing serious delinquencies in 2016. As many of you know from listening to the calls, I have said, hold on, Donald Ross said Keith Giroux is his cousin. The writer Keith Giroux, Donald, is that actual? Because if it's true, you need to hook that up for a coaching. Oh, you got to hook it up for a coaching call, Donald. David and he would have a great conversation. I'm a conspiracy theory nut. So I'm with him on this, right, David? So his whole thing is look at the number of outstanding loans as of 2016, jump ahead to the numbers that came out for the final quarter, which is we're at historic lows. We're at a 0.5% default rate. Nobody's missing their payments. Everything has gone wonderful. And the summation of this whole article is basically that's literally impossible. Literally impossible. He goes on to explain that loan mods have no lending standard guidelines. California non-agency loans were at some crazy numbers, and they don't even make the 2016 report. That's the report for all of you. It's all in your email box, by the way. I would love to hear your feedback and your wife's feedback about this article.
Well, first of all, the article is so I want to just state by saying that it's an opinion of one guy who hasn't seen new data since 2016. So so I don't know how much of it is factual or how much of it is headline grabbing, and so I just want to go on record, okay? But it does make some interesting points and his position is certainly plausible. That this could be happening. And I guess in short, what he's saying is that, we're seeing all these houses that are gone on the market. We were talking about this a week or two ago as well, right? And we're wondering, where did all these houses go that the bank said that we kept waiting quarter after quarter after quarter. The bank was going to liquidate and the market was going to get flooded. The market was going to be flooded. And we surmised, I think primarily I surmised, that, well, they just disappeared in these bulk transfers, these bulk sales to these large hedge funds. And what he's saying is that's not, that they still have them, hidden in their balance sheet somewhere, and they've got to be released soon. Is that the essence of what he's saying?
That's the essence. And the reason I sent it over to you, I just felt like a lone conspiracy theory nut at the end of the year going, it's just impossible for everything to have fallen off the table. But there wasn't anybody else doing what Giroux did with this piece, which is, all right, let's objectively look at the numbers and let's look at non-agency loans and where did they go? Where did they go? You couldn't have modified everybody because people who don't pay. Like the number of foreclosures, the number of seriously delinquent, it doesn't add up mathematically.
And the other things that he's saying is that they were given statistics where some of these guys were modifying 65% of their loans, but we know by practical experience and data from other sources that only about 15% of people end up getting a loan mod, and only 4% end up staying in that loan mod as a permanent loan mod, statistically speaking. Now, what the article did point out is something else which we do agree on. And that is that the redefault rate is 40% and almost across the board. And it doesn't seem to matter what kind of modification the redefault rate. And he says that's where the opportunity is And I think that we're all witness to that. Any of us are going out and doing tagging with any regularity and meeting with distressed homeowners. There's a very high percentage of them, it could be over 50%, who have already been in a loan mod and defaulted on that loan mod and now want another loan mod because they're back in foreclosure again and the bank is not really playing this time.
And so that has kind of, Market Watch is such a watched publication, David, that I'm waiting for the trigger effect to see if anybody else jumps on board. And as of late, for those of you who don't follow default news as much as I do, they're all starting to change their opinions ever so slightly. I don't think they're all ready to jump off the bridge completely. Market Watch, though, has been kind of doubling down on the topic, I guess is a way to say it. I hadn't noticed that a day after that article comes out, a new article comes out on Market Watch. So they went back-to-back days. I haven't looked for today yet, but Sean Langlos, social media editor for Market Watch, decided to write a very simple piece of when's the Fed going to start buying up millions of homes, assuming it's not. He goes there. He figures that there are two outcomes for the future, and it's this chart that I find interesting, right? So if we are at the top of the bubble and we are starting the decline, everybody's speculating one of two scenarios. And he's, through the course of this article, starts to feel, which is a basic, he tries the basic mathematic principle of if it rises by this much, then it will decline by this much, which is sort of the standard bubble model. What he thinks might actually happen is scenario number two, by way of the article, to going back to the bottom of what bubble number one should have been, right? So I said this at the time from bubble number one, which was we're not seeing the real bottom, right? So we allowed Wall Street firms, or whatever terminology you want to use, we allowed REOs and properties to be bought up in record rates and held in these trusts. And we created a nearly zero borrowing rate. We did everything to stop a true bottom from happening. And so now day number two of Market Watch is, okay, what's the actual scenario if we are in a bubble? And I've seen a softening within the news. Now, here's the question that I'm going to raise for you, David, not whether or not we're in a bubble. That's completely, I'm still with you. It's going to happen whatever happens in the spring or summer, right? If people buy and continue to prop up real estate at the current prices, or at least a plateaued number, that seems logical. The question really becomes, how much news has to happen before people think that we are sliding and they stop buying, waiting to see if prices continue to drop?
Okay. Well, that's that question is really what I felt what was happening October, November, December in my market up here. Now I know this could vary by market, where we really felt like there was just no demand in the marketplace. And the measure that I use two measures to do that is, number one, I'm looking at a daily report that I get sent to me by title, and I also get a hot sheet from the MLS every day, where and you can all do this, is where you can track the number of new listings that we have every day and compare that to the number of new escrows. And what we were seeing in October, November, December, and even January for that matter, but to a lesser extent, what we were seeing is we would see a high number of listings, say 30, but we would only see 15 or 20 new escrows. And so the question that I was at, well, what's happening to that surplus? So the more surplus you had, the more choices buyer have. And then you've got buyers who have more flexibility, more options, more time, more patience, and you end up getting sellers that are competing with each other to drive those prices down. And we saw prices come down 3 or 4% over those last few months. And we saw this old inventory so the sellers who had to sell discounted the price, and the sellers that didn't, they let their listings expire. And we're seeing a lot of those guys come in the market. So that was the first thing. So I was very concerned about growing inventory, growing days on market, growing absorption rates. And then what we've seen in the last 10 days or so, maybe 2 weeks, is that we're now starting to see an equal number of new escrows to the number of listings. And on some days, many days actually, we're seeing more new escrows than we are seeing new listings, which is a very positive sign for this early and what is supposed to be a spring selling season. And what we don't know is, two things we don't know is that going to continue? Is that just the doldrums, people who postpone buying and the end of the year to kind of see what happens and really feels like the sky's not going to fall anymore and needed to get out there and make a move? And then the other question, so is buyer demand going to stay up? And then the other question that I have, what kind of listing activity are we going to have? Are we going to get flooded with listing? As I talk to more and more people who are waiting till spring or summer to list, and what's happening if all that inventory comes on the market at the same time and buyers don't, then we're going to have another soft year. But none of those scenarios, at least in my market, result in a crash. From everything that I can tell, we're going to be flat to down or flat to up, and it's going to depend on the price range. The under $600,000 price range is going to be slightly up, and the over $600,000 price range is probably going to be down, with the down percentage growing as the price goes higher. So, I mean, that's my assessment of what's going on in terms of that inventory. And then we don't know about this hidden inventory. If this in fact starts to come up, then that could turn everything upside down on its head. And if you combine that with interest rate hikes, which we thought were coming last year, but the Fed seems to be signaling is not coming anymore. I mean, you can create a perfect storm that would cause a big problem, but it's not going to be because of it doesn't seem like it's going to be because of a 10 or 20% default rate like we were experiencing. So I don't know if that answers the question that you proposed, but that's kind of my perspective.
It does. And I always worry about what the continuation is, right? So the first year of a bubble doesn't look horribly bad. It could just be a market correction, which is the way most ways the media is playing this,
which is
right?
what we've had, which is exactly what we've had with a 3 to 5% adjustment. So I refer to it as the shift, right? So the market shifted, but we seem to be plateauing. Now, whether or not that means we're just taking a breather before we continue down, which is what you're saying could happen, and it is possible, or is it stabilizing and getting ready to bounce back up? We just don't know. And anybody who's, all we can do is kind of look at the data, but we don't know how the market is going to respond to how the market is, has shifted. So it could go down further. And if you see a whole bunch of redefaults, like this guy is proposing, and we're seeing our pipeline continues to grow miraculously, with short sales. I thought we'd be out of business, 3 years ago, and we're not. I think it's just it's an interesting dynamic. What seems to be happening is that we seem to be more and more of a balanced market between buyers and sellers.
Yeah, so, at the moment, which would make sense based on the way the Fed's handling the interest rate, and I think that that's what they want. Ultimately, that's the cause and effect of having the Fed be able to control interest rates and what it does to the overall market. So, with that said, I will also table this discussion with one more piece of information. Every single person who talks about bubbles or whether or not we're in bubbles says the same thing. The only way to 100% confirm that we're in a bubble is on the other side of a bubble. Like, you will not know until we've already gone through the bubble. That's why, and I would say this, 95%, maybe even higher, 98% of people going into the end of the year were still projecting positive appreciation within the market. There were very few that were starting to jump off. As we're starting to plateau or decline, I don't know which it is at this moment. I really think that I'm with you, David. Spring and summer are going to really tell the tale of where this plays out. 6 months into this year, you'll have a very strong understanding of the direction of this market. All of those people have gone really quiet. Like, I can't even begin to discuss how quiet market data is right now. To answer Richard's third question, where would you get this data? It's really quiet. I mean, I get a constant daily feed of certain keywords when they hit the news. And I'm telling you, everybody going into the end of the year was touting how great the year was, and it'll keep going into next year. We're rapidly approaching the end of the first quarter of this year. That discussion has stopped completely. And now I'm starting to see MarketWatch is a very large publication. For them to start popping their head out of the water, maybe agree or disagree, David, I'd love to hear your feedback. For MarketWatch now on a second day, right? So let's just say that yesterday was the first day they came in with an opinion piece with some data to back it up. Day number 2, they're already looking at scenarios for if we are in a bubble, what would the bubble look like? I don't think they're going to stop this. I think I'm sure that the click rate was high enough that it generated this piece today, because that's how all media works, right? If there's interest, if there's click, do it again tomorrow. So if this is the direction they're going, MarketWatch is the first national online publication I've seen that has started to have a discussion about this. So it'll be interesting to see the impact it has on the overall media that comes out. With all that said, what's your wife's feedback, by the way?
Well, she's in the stock market business, right? And so she's paying attention to equities and interest rates and how they affect equities, and she's managing money for private clients. So she's got a big job, way smarter than I am, and so but she's becoming a home seller, and we're both becoming home buyers, and so all of a sudden she's a lot more keen on the kind of things that she's happening. She seems to think that interest rates are going to be stable for a while. She doesn't really have an opinion on what's happening behind the scenes with the banks. In conversation, she does think that the banks have really cleaned up their act. Or when I say that, I mean balance sheets. They've cleaned up their balance sheets, and at least on paper, they're showing they're very healthy. And if they do have some of this hidden inventory, or if they do have defaults that they're not actually calling defaults, okay, then that's probably gonna change everything. But what we're seeing the banks do, if that's really what is happening, what we're seeing the banks do is selling those distressed loans off, as opposed to the real estate owned, off to other services and hedge funds, not mutual funds, but hedge funds and what I call vulture funds, who are really acquiring paper at a discount and who have no intent on curing those defaults by any other mean than foreclosure. So we're seeing some of that now as well. So she doesn't think that this stuff is going to materialize on the books of the bank, okay, because because strategically they, by labeling it one thing, they can move it off their books as that one thing and replace the risk with an asset and go from there. So I don't, she's kind of neutral on the bank. She doesn't think that you're going to see big headlines. Whatever's going to happen is going to be behind the scenes.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to Richard Galloway's point on the question board, there is a guy in Arizona, Troy Fullwood, who I actually know, who buys non-performing mortgages from lenders. He says the B of A and JP Morgan are selling off non-performing loans. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's, just so you know, that was Ocwen's business model, by the way, before they got kind of, in trouble with the world. And then, Nation Star, Mr. Cooper now, that was their model. But what you're seeing is you're seeing pure note buyers now. So these guys were kind of doubling as servicers. So when you get these big servicers like Nation Star, they have some financial incentive to cure those defaults and do loan modifications and that kind of thing. But some of these smaller firms, and you're seeing them pop up more and more. They're just using it as a backdoor way to get the property. They're investors and nothing more or less.
There's always a buyer. There's always a buyer. I think back in 2006 or 7, I went through contacts that I had to start looking at who would buy these horrible non-equity positions, and if there was a market for it. And the bottom line that I came back with after talking to multiple sources was that there's a buyer for everything. It's just how far are you going to discount it? I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to.
That's true of the worst houses you look at. Like, I was in a really bad house yesterday, and the guy needs about $50,000 and updating and deferred maintenance in order just to get it comparable to the houses. And he's wanting to say, I got a $2,000 budget. How do I spend that so I can get top dollar? And I'm like, dude, you need if you spent $2,000, it's not even you're gonna lose $2,000. It's not gonna get you a higher sale price. You need to sell it to somebody who's got an appetite for doing this and has an upside potential, based on the risk they would take on it. It's a pure investor, deal. So, homeowners have unrealistic expectations, and the market sometimes has unrealistic expectations. And some of these properties deserve to be sold to an investor, and some of them, just got to figure it out the hard way.
Richard, let's take a few of these questions. Richard Galloway, first and foremost, if the banks have been hiding foreclosures and non-performing loans on their balance sheet, what is going to force them to complete the partial foreclosures and sell off their REOs and non-performing mortgages?
Well, that's what we were talking about. The risk,
right.
The risk to the bank is having, so if you think about what Dodd-Frank did, which they're trying to undo a little bit. They were. I don't know if they can't now that we had our election, but what they're trying, what Dodd-Frank does is it requires a certain level of capitalization for every default that's on your books. So, you have to show that you have that you're liquid. And so by naming these, by labeling them, if you will, a loan that's in default as cured or pending, they're not obligated in order to do that. So what they're doing in order to avoid having to keep all that cash on the sidelines that they can do nothing on, they can't lend and they can't profit from, what they're doing is they're just selling this paper off at a discounted rate. And that's what's happening. So they move it off their books at the last possible minute if they can't do it. And even if and this is why they're letting some of these stay on the market. They're saying these foreclosures are 4 or 5 years old of delinquency, and we've seen lots of those. And somehow or another, they've got them categorized as cured when they're not cured. And there must be some legalese or technicality that they're getting away with that, because I don't think it's that big a secret. But that's how they're doing it, and so they sell it when they have to.
Let's go with, I'm going to finish up the Richard stuff. I see Doug, that's going to be a complete turn. Richard Galloway, again, one thing the data doesn't show is how the Fed is writing off and selling off junk mortgages backed securities they bought during the big downturn. Where would we get this data? I have no clue. I've never even heard of that data. I don't even know if it exists. I'm sure somewhere it exists. Have you ever heard of being able to see that kind of data, David?
No.
Yeah, that would be great.
It may exist, but I'm not familiar with it. I'm not that sophisticated.
Richard, last question. Fullwoods plays buy non-performing notes, foreclosures, and sell them to properties to third-party rehabbers, flippers, and foreclosure sales. Yeah, it's a great model if you can get in with the servicers. I've said this, I'm sticking to it. I've been saying it since 2007. The banks, the major banks, up to a certain point, right? only deal with larger companies. They don't want to be involved with individuals. I think that's an asset manager type decision that's just weaseled its way down the line for a long period of time. But Fullwood, I guarantee, has an in with one of these third parties that's buying up, probably hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. But makes sense. Takes us to actual monster questions. If you guys have questions about the market or market projection, go ahead and type those in. We will turn now and take a few monster questions. We'll start with Doug Ranger. David, I met with a homeowner back in December, and at a time when he had already made 2 payments on a loan mod. His lender continues to schedule a foreclosure date, and monthly he receives a certified letter. I don't know the contents. What can he do to make them stop keeping his home in dual tracking? He mentioned that to his contact at the lender, and they say it will continue until September, which will be a year of the trial, and then we'll convert to a permanent loan mod.
Well, that doesn't sound right to me.
No.
Because what state is this in?
Doug Ranger's California.
So I can tell you about California. In California, I think this is a Fed law, but I don't want to swear to it. But I know in our market, it's 3-month trial and automatic conversion to permanent. There's that's the kind of stuff that they used to do that got regulated out. In the beginning, in 2011, you get a loan mod, then you do a trial payment for 3 months. Then you had to resubmit your financials and for them to determine that you still had a hardship and an ability to pay. And then they decide whether or not you were going to get a permanent loan mod or not. And then the Feds, I think it was the Feds, regulated that out so that, you make your 3 payments. And the little known secret is you get a 3-month trial mod, and they say you make your payments on the 1st of each month and don't be late. You don't want to risk your modification. And what they really mean, as long as you made all 3 payments, as long as you make all 3 payments by the 90th day, you get a permanent loan mod. So I don't recommend that strategy, but nonetheless, that's what it is. That does not sound right 12 months into a loan mod, and it doesn't sound right that they're getting notices. We do know that, this again may be a technicality that the banks can do that I'm not aware of, but they when you get applied for a loan mod, what some of them do is they just automatically move it out 30 days, and they say it's not a foreclosure, it's a hold date, it's a tentative date, and they just keep pushing it out, pushing it out. And so you've got to be careful with banks when you're in loan mod review. This is one of the reasons I have homeowners call every week to talk to the bank and find out what the status of their sale date is, because we have seen them when they weren't in, you don't have a foreclosure date, and then they get declined for a loan mod, and then they take 2 weeks to notify you or 3 weeks to notify you. But then by the time you get notified, your foreclosures in a week or 10 days. So you've just got to be careful with that. So I don't know really the direct answer to his question, but it sounds like they have a procedure where they just keep pushing it out month after month after month. So technically that may qualify for being compliant.
So Wells Fargo, where can I read? I'll take the first one while you're typing in the response, Doug. Where can I read about the 3 months for a loan mod, David? Does it exist?
I am not sure. It probably does exist.
The World Wide Web is a wonderful thing.
And I'm happy to look it up, by the way. So if you sent me an email, Doug, it's actually good. That'd be a good piece of thing to put in the package if we could find something, because this just doesn't come up for me, so I don't even think about it. But if it is coming up somewhere, then we can easily prepare a flyer that could go in the package.
Yeah, there's a lot of data.
I'm curious to know if anybody else was experiencing the same thing, or this is just a rare exception. But it's Wells Fargo, so.
Yeah.
But it's not happening to us.
I think the other thing that was interesting about what you said, Doug, was, did you say that a mortgage company did his loan mod, or a third party's doing his loan mod work, or an attorney, or something of that nature? And again, breakdown in communication and a third party doing the work for him could have a lot to do with this as well. Just
This is why in our door script we say, when was the last time you spoke to the bank?
right.
As opposed to the person who's doing the loan mod for them.
So I had a homeowner call I had the homeowner call, and that was their response. That's really weird. Yeah, it's a lot, Doug. It is a lot. And I would be concerned that he paid $10,000 to an attorney up front. Can he get his money back from the attorney? No.
It may not actually be a loan mod. It may be some sort of settlement.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I now I want to know, is the attorney getting a retainer still,
right,
to upkeep it and that kind of thing, like the match joinder lawsuits.
Guy would have been better served using the $10,000 back to the bank, getting a mod or a forbearance, and paying the bank $10,000 up front than doing whatever he's doing. His goal was to keep it.
And if there's no equity, he should have just used that money to get into something else.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Yes. And by the way, Doug, that screams what the issue is. Alex Velez, who is that law firm? When I met with the homeowner in December, he was still paying the attorney monthly. Oh,
yeah, the plot thickens.
Yeah. That's
what's going on. So it's not a bank thing; it's a lawyer thing.
Yeah, the attorney is getting paid.
There's some sort of agreement. There's some sort of agreement, and a backdoor agreement was made, and the attorney's enriching himself on the backdoor of the homeowner. And don't be surprised if that turns out badly for the homeowner.
Yeah, just stay close, be the advocate. Well, since the National Association now has a new ad campaign on being the advocate, it's making this whole thing sound a whole lot smarter at this moment, David. Just be there, because this could easily go sideways. I like Alex Velez's idea, except that I don't want to piss off law firms. Create a blacklist of attorneys that do. Yeah, no. I'm not brave enough. I've gotten enough cease and desist for outing people up to this point, Alex. And I would be the one who'd have to create it, and I'm not into it. I'm just telling you, attorneys will sue for the sake of suing. They're not good people. I mean, there are good attorneys, but there are a lot of bad attorneys. Donald Ross writes, is it in the California Bill of Rights? I don't think it's in the California Bill of Rights.
I'm Googling. I just Googled how long are temporary loan mods to see if something comes up.
Okay. Chris Sloan. Good question, Chris. Lee, how many times do you retag homes before stopping, if you do stop? Based on my knowledge of what I get sent out on, I never seem to ever stop tagging certain homes, and it's kind of frustrating to me. We have a list. We do wait another 30 days before trying again on certain properties. I'm a bigger believer in trying it a couple of times with a couple of different colors, right? So because we do change the color of the monster so frequently, I prefer cycling them a couple of times with a couple of different colors over anywhere from 30 to 60-day period. But that's just me personally, how I run my business. I have been sent out on a couple of houses that I can't believe how many times I've tagged it. But that isn't to say somebody's not going to finally take the action, if that makes sense. It's very weird. Janice, where can you change the color? Well, you can go on the website, and there are 3 of them listed. I have 3 of them made. But since the actual monster is made in publisher format, it's as simple as just changing the interior color on it. And I said this earlier, and I'll make it clear again. At the event on March 15th, I will be premiering what I call the Amazon color, which is a different looking monster altogether. I'm going to try, I've got to test it. I don't usually just release things for the sake of releasing them, since the original 2 colors are still that effective. But I would like one that is vertically printed, that looks a little more like an Amazon sorry we missed you kind of setup, with the same kind of information. I've seen machinations, good word, I've seen variations throughout the years of people who've kind of improved or what they think is improving upon monster concepts. Nobody has ever truly gotten away from creating anything that isn't what the monster actually looks like. I've seen a few people who've either gleaned it from webinars that David and I have done or events that we've done where they come up with their own version. Their call scripts aren't even remotely the same, and that's a big problem. So I get it. We've been doing this a very long time. If we are in a plateau or going in a different direction, getting listings will be difficult. So there will be an influx of people who want to start working with distressed properties over the next 6 months. There will be. It's inevitable. So these are all very real things that I have to take into account. And I want to go in a different direction with the next design completely, which is turn it sideways, right? You'll still have the same 6 to a page, but they'll be printed long way. And I want them to mimic more like a computer printout. And I want to see if that has a difference in the effect that's used. Because I think that where the monster is right now, I think it's a saturation. So to go back to your question, Chris, I think you can only do the same kind of label so many times before they understand what it is or they call and get the same message, right? So the goal is to get them to call and let the scripts do the work. So from a marketing standpoint and creation, that's what's going to happen. David, how many times do you recycle before you call it a dead lead?
I don't think we try more than 3 times, unless they end up coming off and then coming back on at some point in the future, which happens.
That's a reasonable number. And that would stretch you out to about 6 weeks or even 8 weeks easily. Richard Galloway. David, one more time, please. How does David pay his taggers?
I pay, let me see, I could go back to my data. We pay them $10 per call to the call center, good or bad call, any call, $10. Then we pay them $15 for a kept appointment. And then we pay, I think, $150 for a contract. So listing or purchase agreement, depending on our angle. And then I think we pay $200 or $200, I have to look, $250 if a transaction actually closes. So we make them partners.
There you go. Janice, when will you change all the videos on the website? In the next couple of weeks. It'll be a Sunday, probably. That's it happens usually right before the event. I clean up everything once a year on the website and update everything. To answer your question, I'm a little slow on updating the website this year because we were just kind of doing what we were doing. Violet Marrket-crash. I like a good long last name. The call center that we are using was one of the 2 call centers that you guys recommended, at least back in April of last year. Yes, they seem to have a very awkward billing cycle and charge extra for holidays. We've let them know from the beginning that we were in Lee Honish's group to have a special rate. Does that sound normal to everybody? It should be. It should be the same rate. I don't know about holiday cycles. I don't know what they're doing cycling wise or billing wise. Have you had any anomalies in the call centers, David?
No, we see, I mean, our statistics run pretty even. So, I mean, the data that I talk about here, we put out 20 labels, we get 4 calls, one's a turn down, you know, 3 of them are appointments, and we go out on those 3 appointments, and 1 of them no shows. We have 2 conversations with people, and you know, and then we follow up like crazy. So I mean, that number seems to stay steady for us. No anomalies upward. I mean, some weeks are better than others for reasons that we can't understand, and we've just learned not to judge our success based on 1 week or 2 or 3, just over time. Kind of like blackjack, you know, if you think about blackjack, and if you're a card counter, and I'm not, but if you're a card counter, you get swings of big wins and big losses. But if you measured your success over thousands of hands, statistically speaking, you know, you're going to come out slightly behind the house. you know, so that's how it works.
Certainly send me the information, Violet at Honish at Yahoo, and I'll look into it since I'm cleaning everything up for the year. Janice Legacy. I tried telling them I don't want holidays and they don't care. They charge you extra. What is wrong with using the local number? There's a lot wrong. There's a lot wrong with using your own phone. There's a lot wrong in general. I can only give you the historical data because I launched this from the ground up through every means other than a US call center reading an exact script the way it's presented right now. David and Diana have done masterful jobs crafting those call center scripts to get the highest and best results. I mean, that's just the bottom line to the whole thing. That aspect of the process is monumental. I look at everything from a marketing standpoint. So your first point of contact is the tag. The tag needs to generate a phone call. The phone call is the pivot point. And here's why. When I first did it straight to my cell phone, I did this. I worked with Steve Guzman a lot in those early days and a couple of real top hitters. We all had a tendency to try to convert on the phone. Your goal is not to convert on the phone, right, by taking the call in. The next move was to send it to an automated recording. That got no response. In fact, I was experimenting with the Monster recently on expireds into a pre-recorded call with some scripts to see if that would work, because I don't want to invest too much into the expired thing at this moment. I was just looking for an alternative use for the Monster. And I saw it happen again with pre-recorded. They call the minute it's pre-recorded, they hang up. There's no give and take. I'm not getting a phone number. I'm not getting any data out of the process. The next thing we tried was an international call center to keep the cost down to something really unbelievably low. And the problem I had was inconsistencies. Then we tried out a call center that's in the Valley. They were inconsistent. The two that we currently have been the most consistent for the greatest amount of time, to answer your question. So that is the long explanation of why it's not a local number, why it's an 800 number, why it's a US-based call center. It's just about quality and control and making sure that David and Diana's scripts are read, period. I need the number. I don't even care if they decline me. I need the data. That's all there is to that. You have to really physically, I can't tell you how crucial marketing data is. For you guys, it's one thing because there's always kind of someone buying or selling a home, and you can always go out and find a way to get your hands on data to generate new business. When you're talking about small businesses, which I do a lot of consulting with, yesterday was a mind-boggling experience where they have none. You just don't know the difference. I think we're just used to this. And maybe you can enlighten me on this because it will help me, David. You're a hugely branded product. You have a high Yelp rank already. You've got wonderful reviews and lots of, how much of that drives your actual business now that you actually have branding and marketing share?
A lot. I mean, that's maybe the most important part of our marketing is to have brand credibility, and not supported by what we say, but supported by what other people say. So I think it's an important part of what we do. And when you're dealing with people who are generally skeptical of your intentions, it really makes the difference if your brand can be trusted and verified as trusted versus having to go with their gut because you seem like a nice person to hang out with for a minute.
So that's the reason. It always comes down to this. And I've been around real estate a long time. It is my impression that we as real estate professionals, or those that work in real estate, think that we're the best person to talk to the client first. And that's not the case. Certainly not in the case of the Monster and working out a face-to-face appointment. It is one of the greatest breakdowns I saw in the early days of the Monster, to answer that question. Again, long answer. And the other thing is this, because we do get branding or you do get referrals, you tend to overlook my point was, you overlook the importance of incoming leads, right? Monster should be one of the 3 funnels that you're running. The other one should be referrals, and the other one should be something web-based. I mean, that's just logical. So your direct marketing is the monster, your second is referral, and your third is web-based leads. Don't turn any of them off, ever. Don't, no. Bad. Some take longer than others. Chris Sloan, what follow-up strategy is working best? Calling, text, mail, knock on door. You want to answer the question for you, David?
Ask it again. I'm reading about trial mods. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. What follow-up strategy is working best? Calling, text, mail, knock on door. Did he put
well, I don't know what works best. I'm of the school where, what works for some people doesn't always work for others. You kind of have to just talk to the homeowner about what their preferred method of communication is, and then go from there. But what kind of follow-up you do after you've met them, and the kind of follow-up you do if you didn't meet them is also different. So I'm going to go with this question is related to somebody you've made some contact with, you've established some rapport, and there's a general willingness to work together. And so what I find to be the most effective way to communicate is to do what we teach in Advocate Marketing System, and that is to get them to call you once a week, as opposed to you calling them. And when I say call, they could text me, they could email me, they could call me, whatever is easiest. They can fax me if they want, whatever is easiest for them. And so what I do is I give them the weekly lender questions, what we call the weekly lender questionnaire, and I teach them to call the bank. I oftentimes do it with them the first time so they can see how we do it. And then I have them call the bank each week thereafter that, use the questionnaire as a log of their conversation, and then they can take a picture of it and send it to me. They can call me and discuss it with me. They can scan it and email it to me. They could summarize it, and writing, via text or email, whatever it is that works best for them. And that seems to work the best. And if they don't call me in a week, and I didn't hear from them, say we have an agreement they're going to try to call the bank every Wednesday, if Thursday or Friday come by and I haven't heard from them, they show up in my follow-up, then I will call them and say, and my question is, hey, tell me what happened when, I just wanted to check in with you and see what happened when you spoke to the bank this week. Is there any news to share? And usually the reason is that there was nothing to report. It's the same old, or they didn't call the bank again, at which time I say, okay, I really strongly encourage you to just take 5 minutes. I know it's a hassle, but take 5 minutes, check with the bank, let me know, because we just don't want to get blindsided by bad news, and you don't have the time you need to maneuver, based on what their next move is. So do that and call me. It's important. And that's how we do it. And so that seems to be the most effective way to do it, if I can get them on board to do that. And then the second most effective thing is the 21 email drip campaign that we do, that where they get an email every single week from us. And that works for people who aren't engaged, because oftentimes we get to a subject, even if they don't read it, we brand ourselves as being an expert and being helpful. And if they get to the place where they need to talk to somebody, that email serves as a timely reminder that we might be a resource. And sometimes people call us and say, hey, you've been sending me these emails, I got a situation maybe you can help me with, or they write me a long email pouring their heart out, telling me the problem, asking if we can help, and then we meet.
There you go. Alex Velez, hey Lee, when was the call center script last updated? Within the last year or so for both Diana. I think we've been running about the same scripts for about 1.5 years, so everybody should be okay.
I haven't, it's been easily a year since I updated mine.
Yep.
I mean, we have 2 versions that we give people can do on, because we did a custom one for Marianne Schmeltz, who came to my and wanted to switch it up a little bit. She said that works great. I still use mine, and it works great. So it's a matter of preference, maybe.
There you go.
So if you want my call script, just send me an email and just ask for the call center script, and I'll send it to you.
There you go. Ted, where are the 2 call centers you use now? On the coaching page, honish.club, easy squeezy. If you have not updated and started using honish.club, send me an email and I'll send you. You could still be trying to use the old site, which is what I think some of you are using and why we have such odd questions. I'm trying to reinvigorate the old coaching students and get them involved again.
Right.
I've been doing this a long time, David. I cannot believe how long this ride has actually been. I was thinking about it the other day. I have been on distressed property education since 2007. That's a pretty good run.
Right.
At least from a coaching standpoint, teaching one very specific niche. Janice, my tags aren't getting many calls. Most are, I don't need your help. That's fine. That's a data point. I put them on the mailbox when I see they are home. That's fine. But even people who say they don't need your help that's still a data point, right? So it's still about the follow-up. And secondly, try switching it up. Try switching your call center out to David's call center. And I say this to everybody. Switching things up is not a bad thing. It's not a knock on Diana's script or David's script. If you're using David's scripts and you don't like it, switch to Diana's script. If you don't like the way the monster is working, change the color on the call center color, right? It's all the same. His call center, Janice, is exactly the same as yours. You just need to change the actual script within it. It's not that big a deal. Just email David. Right. Very simple. We took care of Alex, and we got the updated question, right, Alex? I'm pretty sure I got it. So, David Hurrow, my call center gives me a recording and a call number. If they do not give a number, I get a caller ID number. Yeah, you should. Every single person, every single lead. And again, I'm such a lead-driven person, and we've said it multiple times on this call. Just because you guys get a phone number or an email in a decline does not change the lead itself. It's still a person in default. It's just a different strategy to conversion. So, and I hopefully over the course of the last 6 months, because I've been hammering at this, to me, anything that comes in from, and this is direct marketing, right? That's what the monster is, direct marketing that's permission-based. It's a lead that can go into my funnel. And if I have a funnel that has generated responses, right, based on a very specific niche, that means I can still cultivate and create relationships. But be prepared. David has said it, and I'll say it, and I'll confirm it with David right now. It's 6 to 9 months sometimes before any of your leads that go into your funnel will convert out via the web or even direct marketing. Has that changed dramatically for you, David?
Okay, I'm reading again. Sorry, I'm reading.
That's all right.
Because I have more information about the trial loan mod that I want to share.
Okay. I'll
ask me the question again, and then I'll answer.
No, I was going for a confirmation. Is it any lead you get direct marketing or even web-based, right? Is it still somewhere between 6 and 12 months before they convert out?
Are we talking about distress or regular?
Yeah, follow-up. It doesn't matter. Follow-up campaigns, everything.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, on distressed properties, they range from the short end is 30 days and the long end is 18 months. So, so I would say if you had to do it's easily 6 to 8 months. And mostly the best way to answer that question is where are they already? If they've never applied for a loan mod, okay, and they want to keep their house, then it's going to take longer. And if they've already been turned down 3 times and they say, I want to try one more time, then I know I got to sell it, then it's 30 to 45 days. And once in a while, it happens faster than that, but it's once in a while. We do not go to the door expecting to get a deal. We're going to make a friend and to establish some credibility with that homeowner, so that when they do get ready to do something, that we're a trusted source to review their options.
There you go. Let me knock these out real quick before we get to David and the update. Thank you. That was helpful. Where can I get a copy of the weekly lender questionnaire? Send an email to David.
Yeah.
David@homeloanadvocates.com. Would you consider sharing the drip email campaign? Donald Ross asks.
Well, that's part of the advocate marketing system. So Donald, aren't you part of advocate marketing?
I believe he is.
And so just send me an email and we'll go from there. So if you're advocate marketing, it's in what we call the resource CD. And if you want to be part of the advocate marketing system, send me a short sale and I'll put you in for free.
Violet Marrket-crash, can we have David and Diana's script to give to the call center? Call centers have, I believe they have both scripts at this point. I would be really shocked if they didn't. But
I don't know. Send me an email because they get updated. I don't know if that's true or not. I'd like to think so. I've given it to them, but that doesn't mean a thing. So my email is david@homeloanadvocates.com. david@homeloanadvocates.com. It might take me a day or two to get it to you, but I will get it to you.
There you go. Mark Doris, can we please get a copy of David's lender question? We did that. Send him an email. Doug Ranger, I received an email from the call center yesterday without a name or a tracking number. That's bizarre. Okay, just put them on a follow-up campaign. There we go. All right. Oh, wait, another question popped up from Doug Ranger. One homeowner has been unemployed and said their lender continues to work with them. I don't know what that means, is they could face foreclosure at any time. Has anybody actually physically talked to have you been there on the call with them, Doug, to talk to the bank or hear the conversation at all? Yeah, is there a third party? The basics that I would have at this point, if you haven't gleaned anything, because I'm going to have to start doing door appointments again consistently if you haven't been following along. The big trigger points for me, because I've been working on my own mental scripts, right? Have you talked to the bank? Are you working with a third party? Those are the two things I'd like to know right out of the gate in California. Those seem to be the biggest bullet points to me. And I think that's an unknown variable. Am I wrong in that, or are you still rating David?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Oh,
I think you're right.
There you go. All right, and we will end this call with David reading for us.
Yeah, so I did a little research. By the way, I'm going to spring everybody on that if you're coming to the advocate, if you're coming to the summit, one of the things that I'm going to be introducing, I think that I'm going to be able to introduce it by then, is I've been kind of reworking how to negotiate your own loan mod. So we're probably going to keep that, but I'm also creating now a customizable book that I think that we're going to title The Insider's Guide to 24-Hour Loan Modification Approvals.
Nice. And
put that together that we're going to enhance advocate marketing system with. So it's going to be something I'm going to introduce. Then it's a beautiful package that you can use on your first meeting that's really going to take your conversion process and your credibility to a whole nother level. So that's the first thing that I want to say. The second thing is that I'm just looking on, here's some frequently asked questions on a site that I found, and I'm not going to give the name out of the site in case it's not right, but but here is the trial is typically 3 months long, usually begin on the 1st or the 15th of the following month. Question: Can you skip a trial payment and go straight to the permanent modification? Answer: it's unlikely. If you receive a trial payment from your lender and you want a permanent modification, you don't have the option to skip over the trial payment and make your 3 payments on time in the correct format and confirm the payments were received and applied. And then the question is, well, what if 3 months goes by and I don't have my permanent loan mod? Should I keep paying? Typically, yes. You should have here's the answer, I guess. You should have your permanent modification before beginning the 4th month. They should send it to you about 2.5 months in, about 2 weeks before it's supposed to go permanent. If you don't, abide by the terms of your trial payments, and the trial payment states that you are to continue paying until the permanent loan mod has been issued. Lapses in payment could cause a problem, so that could be a problem. So we recommend you make your payment per the terms. And then the other thing, and here's the big question: can I make my 3 trial payments and still not get a permanent loan mod? Here's the answer to that, the short version. If you successfully make your 3 payments and confirm receipt and application with your lender, they are generally obligated to give you a permanent modification. If you don't receive one, there's a problem and you need assistance. So there you go. Now you have to send the originals back, and you have to actually sign the new modified mortgage. There's some conditions that you have to do. But if you meet all those conditions, you do what your trial loan mod agreement said and you documented, they're not supposed, they shouldn't deny you unless something is really sideways. That's my answer.
And there you go. Last question from Mark Doris. Are you asking me or David? I would assume David. Will David be speaking at the Pasadena Investor Seminar the Saturday before your seminar? The answer to that one is no. It's just me and Robert Fragoso, and I believe we're just on a panel, and Linda is pounding it down everybody's throats in the Valley. You will see David's photo. Have you done a Linda event yet?
I don't do Saturday events, so no.
Right. But I don't think all our events are Saturday. I don't think Realty 411 does strictly Saturday events. But
yeah, no, I haven't. I know. I don't know Linda. I know of Linda. We're connected at some level, but I don't think she and I have ever engaged.
And this is the first time for me, so I don't even know what time. I can tell you this, Mark. My safe answer about that Saturday before, I cannot tell you when I'm speaking. She does not seem to give me a straight answer about it. It doesn't seem to be well organized, which is uncomfortable to me. I like my events to run, well, like our summits, mostly with some kind of structure. They get changed, but there is always a structure. And I will end on that note. So for those of you who are planning to come to the Monster Marketing Summit, go to prereo.org, sign up. I can tell you pretty much what the morning is. I'm still trying to arrange a few things for the afternoon, but the morning, I think I have my confirmation on the other morning speaker that he can't make it. Has he informed you of that yet officially, David?
My son?
Yes.
He has not told me that.
He said he was not sure. He was still working it out, and he was looking like he was hustling. I'm like, if it's important, just go do the other thing. It's cool.
He has not said something to me.
I believe that's happening shortly, since I've talked to him in the past within the last few hours, I believe. I don't think he can make it, David. I think you're coming on your lonesome. So I will do, because I want to put together this is what distressed properties look like and what the market data is showing kind of presentation anyway. I want a traveling kind of roadshow presentation for offices, just in case the market turns. And I'm in high demand again, David. I feel I need a basic knowing the difference between equity and non-equity and what to do in those early situations, which will be followed by David. And David's got, I think, a really good chunk of time. I think he got like an hour and a half or 2 hours to work there and really get into the meat and potatoes of it. We'll take a non-hosted lunch. We'll come back. You've got Robert. I'll talk about digital leads and follow-ups and things of that nature, updates to the website. Since Robert will be there and I'll be there, Diana will more than likely be there. So you guys have really good Q&A set up. And there will be some really interesting people at the event. If they actually show up. I mean, there are some people scheduled to be there that I was a little shocked by seeing their registration. And if they show up, I'm going to make them speak, because they are such interesting and unique people. There you go. For those that are brand new over the last couple of weeks, David, please give out your information.
Well, David Bartels, and if you need help with a distressed property, conversion, short sale, consultation on loan modification, we don't do loan mods, but we do coach people on how to get loan mods. You can email me, David at homeloanadvocates.com, David at homeloanadvocates.com. Or you can call my office and get on my calendar, speak to Leticia. The number is 805-413-8000, 805-413-8000. I almost forgot my phone number, Lee.
That was interesting. Well, at least I didn't want to introduce you as Andrew Labouche this week. So it is the way it is. Things happen. You get older, things happen. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out. David, I appreciate you taking time out and being on the call with everybody. Thanks, everyone.
Right,
absolutely.